Welcome. My name is Marguerite Reinberger. I'm a Stillwater native and have served as a candidate moderator for over 30 years, both in the St. Croix Valley, including Lake Elmo. Some of you may have seen the primary election form that I moderated for the Stillwater Gazette, the sponsor of this one as well, before the primary election. It was on the Washington County Commissioner District 3 race. That resulted in two candidates going into the November 5th ballot. And I have both candidates here, and congratulations to both of you. They are in alphabetical order, Bethany Cox and Mark Wiens. This forum will be 45 minutes long. Candidates are invited to bring in a prepared 1-minute opening and 1.5-minute closing. The allotted time for responses will average 1 minute and 45 seconds. I'm going to encourage you guys to use it wisely to show the voters you really know your stuff. I may, based on time, drop it down or increase depending on the question and what time we have left. My sister Marianne of Matamita, Reinberger of Matamita, I will be the time enforcer, and you heard the word enforcer. So, let's begin with Bethany Cox with your up to 1 minute opening.
Thank you, Margot. Good morning, everyone. My name is Bethany Cox. Before I get started, I want to share my gratitude for the voters who propelled me to a strong first place finish in the primary election. Thank you. As a dedicated nonprofit leader here in the St. Croix River Valley, I've witnessed firsthand the critical gaps our community organizations fill. As a parent in the Stillwater Area Public School District, I see and hear the needs of our students. My leadership experience on Stillwater's Planning Commission and the Library Board before that has deepened my understanding of community needs and development. And I've already gotten a start building relationships with local elected officials throughout this district, listening and hearing the challenges and opportunities that their communities are facing. My education and career training has equipped me to serve and to lead. I am committed to enhancing Washington County through effective representation, and today I ask for your vote again.
Thank you. Mark.
Thank you, Margot. Stillwater Gazette and Valley Access, you have a legacy of informing our community and providing a fair forum. Thank you. We love our community, and we love to serve and preserve. We want to preserve Washington County as a great place to live, work, and play, where we can all thrive. I'm concerned that our seniors and working families are struggling to make their budgets work in these high inflation and high taxation times. I will work to hold the line on property taxes and fees to ensure that we are getting the best worth from every tax dollar we spend. Prior to embarking on new programs and spending, I will push for clear public understanding on the scope, cost, and desired end state. So that we do not travel into the land of unsustainable spending and taxation without measurable results and having a lack of public support. I'm endorsed by police and labor, which is important to have our community protectors and builders represented, supported, appreciated, and safe. I take a balanced approach to finding solutions and seek diverse opinions. Together we can get more done finding winning solutions. Thank you.
Bethany, I'll begin with you. First question. As a longtime election judge in the Stillwater area, I have had to, on more than one occasion, actually quite a few occasions in the last few years, talk and walk voters through the steps of voting and subsequent vote counting with people who come to my ward in order to ensure them that their vote will count. Have the issues of an election integrity or security been brought up by residents?
Great question, Margot. I have heard nothing when I've been knocking on doors or standing at the county fair for 5 days. Washington County does an incredible job with its elections department, ensuring that every vote counts, that every vote is protected, and that there is no interference with any of the ballots that are cast.
Thank you. And Mark.
Thank you. That's a great question. I do get that occasionally at the door and on some calls and emails. And our discussion really goes to, so is that a feeling? Do you have any facts? If it's a fact, then you should report it. I took a tour of the Washington County Elections Department, and I was impressed at their professionalism and their process. Like any human endeavor, things always happen. The important thing is that you're honest about it and that you report it and then you retrain if there is an issue. I have full confidence in the capability of the Washington County elections to do a proper job in this particular time. Thank you.
Thanks. Mark, next question. What is the role of county government in addressing the impacts of rapid growth and development on the quality of life in our county?
Thank you, Margaret. That's a great question. Of course, here in Washington County, we expect to grow by 27% in population, and with that comes a variety of different things that we need to provide for. Especially at the county level, it's transportation and services. But we need to work with our partners, the Met Council, our state and local elected officials, to make certain that as we plan to execute the growth of people wanting to move to Washington County, which is a great place to live, work, and play, and desirous, that we have a planning process that is open, it's clear, we understand the economic impact as well as the other impacts environmental-wise, so that when we plan, we have the plan that is it's integrated. And it is not only integrated, but it's mutually supporting. I think we have seen some of the issues with Lake Elmo and its rapid growth that was forced upon it, and it didn't initially desire to do that, but it is stepping up and making the appropriate kind of changes and working with the state legislature and the representatives to ensure that it has what it needs. I'll talk a little bit about water later, but that is a primary concern of how we develop, what our sustainability piece is, especially in this era where we're concerned about clean water. Thank you.
Thank you. Bethany.
Thanks for the question, Margot. You know, the government plays a really important role as communities are growing. The Met Council does help cities kind of decide where growth should happen and give some parameters for that. I think important relationships with the Metropolitan Council then are very important to make sure that each community is being heard and that the relationship can truly, be collaborative. I think those relationships are also important as we look kind of up the chain. So making sure that we're in good communication and good relationship with our legislators at the state level and then also at the federal level. People want to live in Washington County. The recreation opportunities and the jobs that we have here are desirable. And so ensuring that the people that are coming here have the same quality of life and the same services that those of us that have lived here for years have grown to depend on and to understand. One thing I'm actually really impressed with is that the preliminary budget has just been voted on for Washington County, and with so many new services coming in, I was amazed at how low they were able to keep that levy. So the new environmental center in the northern part of our district, the new service center in Woodbury, as well as the new emergency housing building coming in. I think we have balanced and created, based on lots of long-term, honest relationships, the quality of life that we can all depend on. Thank you.
Thank you. Bethany, I'll begin the next one with you. What do you feel is the most contentious issue facing the county board, and how would you suggest it be addressed?
That's a good question, and I think honestly it depends on who you talk to. Knocking on the doors in some parts of the community, the most contentious issue is County Road 58 going through. If you talk to other people, it's water quality. And if you talk to more people in Stillwater, I was knocking just the other night, housing. So I think there are a lot of big issues that our county is dealing with. Water quality, absolutely one of them. These forever chemicals are not going to go away unless we filter them out of our systems. A lot of the communities are already in conversation and creating that plan for how to make the drinking water safe for their residents. We talk about roadways and roadway safety. The county has put together a plan that looks 20, 30 years into the future. And part of that plan does include some of these roadways and traffic safety concerns that we have. And then the last one is housing. Again, the county just put together a new strategic plan to really guide the movement of the county in the direction for the next several years. And under two of those objectives, housing was listed. The county is aware of this, and the county is already having really creative discussions about how to manage this. And I look forward to being at the table to see those through. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark.
I agree on several of those points. I think I've received probably the most calls in the last month on the 58 expansion, Oak Park Heights, Stillwater, where people are concerned about the process and making certain that they've had adequate public representation. And I think that's what's important in any endeavor that we do as a collective, is that we have a process and we follow the process. And we have the research from our professionals, and also have public input so that people know what's going on in their community. And again, I think water is the kind of the overarching piece of a concern for at least Lake Elmo and those communities that are right along the PFAS border. And we may not have the direct responsibility for it, but I think we have the onus to work with the watersheds and work with Met Council, as well as our state government, to make certain that there's adequate water and there's adequate clean water to promote the development. And then there's a third thing, and I think this is kind of prevalent in our society today, and that is just the name calling and just the avarice that's out there. And from my experience working with diverse groups and taking opinions, you can't spell community without unity, and we need to come together.
Thank you. I'll begin the next question with Mark. What ideas do you have for enhancing the county's recycling and environmental efforts?
Thank you for that. Recycling, just as part of the whole environmental process, recycling plays a big role. I had the opportunity to tour the recycling facility that we enjoy with Ramsey County, and some of the challenges there. And there's an anaerobic digestion system. Don't ask me to explain the whole thing, but I think that's promising as we take a look at how we separate the different recyclables, those things that are obviously able to be recycled easily versus those that are a little more problematic or need new technology. But the hopeful piece is, as we look at the biological pieces of recycling, that can be an endeavor that works well for our community. And I'd just like to say, part of this, there's General Dwight Eisenhower had a famous saying of plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. We may not know the exact end state of the solution, but we should travel towards it. And in that journey, we develop our relationships and understanding and trust, which is, I think, key for our county. Thank you.
Thank you. Bethany.
Enhancing our recycling efforts. I was that little girl years ago in the classroom that brought home the Reduce, Reuse, Recycle pamphlet and showed it to my parents so proudly. And we started to recycle, and we were so excited. And throughout my life, that has just been a staple. And so to live in a community that, first of all, partners with Ramsey County, I think is fantastic. Let's not duplicate services when we can partner together. We have new leadership at the Recycle Center, and I think it's really exciting to see where that leadership can go. And I know those of us that live in Stillwater have been told that October 1st, so Tuesday, we get to throw our compost bags in our trash bins instead of having to drive them to a separate recycle area for that. I think what also works really well in our county at the Woodbury Recycle Center, and I'm excited for the Northern Yard to also open, but is the ability to drop off paint and chemicals that maybe haven't been used. When we moved into our house recently, we took quite a load of dried up old paint cans there. So to have that resource and to keep and divert that waste out of our landfills is an incredible need that our community has, and I'm proud that Washington County is already moving down that road, and we're seeing some great effects of that, so thank you.
Thank you. Bethany, how would you define your style of leadership that you would bring in your role as a county commissioner?
This is a great question, and I'm smiling. I am in the current cohort for Leadership in the Valley, a program put on by the Greater Stillwater Chamber of Commerce. And we had our first meeting of our group just last month, and they actually had us bring a physical item that depicted my style of leadership. My work allows me to protect the St. Croix National Scenic Riverway, our national park right here in our backyard. And one of the fun things that we get to do is take participants out paddling on the river. And there's always a lead and there's always a sweep. The sweep is the person that's at the back. And that is definitely my style of leadership. I stand at the back, I cheerlead, I make sure that our team understands our goals. Again, the new strategic plan, the commissioners have set forth the direction that we need to move. And now it's my job to sit at the back, talk to the residents, keep those relationships with our state and federal legislators healthy and strong, and just encourage everyone as we move towards that strategic plan. So the item that I brought, because I didn't say that, the item that I brought was a dry bag, because as the sweep, it's also important that you keep things like, Gatorade and granola bars with you. So just like at home, I get to do it at work.
Mark.
Thank you. That is a great question. I've had different leadership positions, and at times you have the authority to do certain things, but it's really the quality of the people that surround you. And one of the things I learned in the service is when you have the authority to do something, the first thing you do in building your team is making certain that everybody knows that they have an equal voice. And I used what was called a red team thing, and I would pick one person that I know was honest, that I wanted you to red team what we come up with. Find the flaws so that we can fix it, so we don't go down this process. And that's important to have that, and it has to be collaborative, making certain that you have the right subject matter experts that are there, and people that have skin in the game, or the communities that are involved, so that they have a voice when it's early on in the process. Sometimes you need to get the ball rolling a little bit, but one of the things that I have, it goes back to my grandmother who basically said, the Lord gave you one mouth and two ears, so listen more than you talk. And that's usually on the leadership side of things, whether it's ancillary comments or it is actually in a certain planning meeting, you pick up a lot of information. And that's how you build trust. And I built trust in my military career as well as my career as a state house representative by listening, and not always taking my own answer, but listening to my constituents and then moving forward there. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mark, in what ways, if at all, would you as a county commissioner personally plan to stay in contact with your constituents?
That's a great question, because I think it is about communication, it is about connection, and in a variety of ways. In my experience, having posted office hours where I can see people face to face. Also, the communication piece that most people are comfortable with, whether it's a phone call or it's an email. And then for those younger people that really like using social media type devices and those types of connections is having that availability. I find that to have the most serious conversation, of course, about issues is doing it face to face, whether that's in an official capacity or it's at a local coffee shop or business in the area, or just on the street. In fact, I get talked to a lot, pulled on, where if I'm shopping someplace or I'm at the post office and it's like, hey, have you heard about this or that? Can we talk a little bit more about it? But that connection with the community, I think, is key for any person in an elected position or a leadership position in the county to be accessible. Thank you.
Bethany.
Yeah, staying in touch with constituents is the primary role of this job, in my opinion. Being able to take their thoughts, their voice to those commissioner meetings and those committee meetings is really the reason to have commissioners. Face-to-face, I also agree, is a fantastic way to stay in touch. Making sure technology lines are open as well. I've gotten some of the best conversations have started after door knocking because someone has reached out through my website or through email or even phone because they had a follow-up question. So I think depending on the constituent and how they're comfortable, we have to meet them where they're at. So sometimes that means having a cup of coffee on the back porch, which has been really fun. Other times it's coffee shops or forums like this. I just think being able to share and being able to stay in touch with our constituents so that we can take their voice to the table is the primary role.
That was a somewhat micro question. This will be a little more macro. Bethany, how will you work to ensure that concerns of all cities and townships within District 3 are being heard? How will you balance concerns that may be in conflict with each other?
Yep. So I've actually started to build some of those relationships with the cities and the townships already. And so I'm grateful for those leaders that have taken the time to meet with me, to have a cup of coffee, and to really share what has worked for them over the last several years in collaboration with the county, and where they see opportunities for more conversation and more partnership. So I think making sure that that is happening is really important as well. Just like the constituents who are voting, the mayors and the township leaders are also voting. So their voice needs to be brought forward as well. They're also a collecting point for their constituents. So sometimes when I'm hearing something, I'm actually then calling the mayor and saying, look, I've heard this from a couple people. Is this something you're aware of too? Perhaps they haven't heard it yet. And just making sure that we all have the most accurate information and the most up-to-date information allows for the best decision making. So again, I think in the very first forum that we were a part of, it was, what's the most important job? To me, it's relationships. This is all about our ability to connect with people, to listen, to hear them, and then to take those voices to the table. Thank you.
Mark?
Can you read the question one more time?
Sure. How will you work to ensure the concerns of all cities and townships within District 3 are being heard? How will you balance concerns that may be in conflict with each other?
I'm going to take the second half of that and start with it, and that's the balance piece, because I think that is one of our roles as an elected official, is to balance those concerns of our electorate, of our cities, towns, and townships, as well as our staff and the staff input. And in that balance, bringing all of those together and communicating and developing the relationships of trust is key, so that we can have a shared vision. I think being curious about why this is an issue is also of concern, as I have discussions with township and other leadership in the area. Is why is this a problem, and what is the background? And when you start bringing those pieces together, sometimes you don't have all the information right away, but you need to have the different players that are affected by this, and their leadership role is key. So I when I get a call from a city mayor, I get right on it, and then try to run down either the answer and get back to that person, or have a further discussion to find out where that came from. And again, together, we're in this together, so you can't spell community without unity. So that's how I feel.
Thanks. Mark, what is your position on providing alternative transportation options to complement public buses in our county?
Yeah, I think that is the challenge. I think as we took a look at when the Gold Line was continued out, and in the holistic approach, and we had that central services hub there. That is a great model for doing county business right at the terminus of a transportation piece. I think bus rapid transit is in the interim is a great I think gap filler as our communities develop. But it's also, I think this is the collaborative nature of what can happen in a county where you work with people of goodwill. So that is nonprofits, that's private business ventures, and other private organizations that want to do good in the community and provide those transportation assets for people to get from one place, whether it's to go shopping, or whether it's to go have to go to a medical appointment, and our relationship with the Met Council and the mobility corridors or the mobility vehicles that they bring out are one of the pieces. But I think that always, as we develop, needs to be explored and expanded in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Bethany.
We need more transportation options overall. Some of our communities throughout the county really have great bus service in place. Some of our communities don't have anything at all. I'm proud that the nonprofits in our community have really stepped up in this area. I know a little bit more about Stillwater than some of the other communities, but Community Thread is an amazing resource here for our seniors to get that transportation to appointments, to get that extra help when a prescription needs picked up. I'm a proud member of the Stillwater Sunrise Rotary Club, and we actually have a program that one of our members put together just called Member Care. How do we take care of the 60 other members within our organization when they have a need? So whether it's airport transportation, whether it's help building a shelf in the garage, so I think a lot of smaller local nonprofit type groups have come together and have really filled a need. The concern that I have with that is I am one of those nonprofit employees. We're getting tired. Is just the polite way to say it. We've done more with less for so many years that it's time that we get a little bit more support and a little bit more help. What I can see happening is the county stepping up, providing more bus transportation. Please no train. I think the county's done really well in keeping the train and the expenses and complication around that out of our county. What I would like to see, again, more buses, and then if the county does have the ability to provide more funding to those nonprofits, perhaps some of those volunteer drivers maybe now can get paid a small stipend so they can continue doing that form of service that our community needs more long term. Thank you.
Thank you. Bethany, what is your view of the role of the county's public libraries? What, if any, changes would you recommend, and how do you suggest improvements be paid for?
All right. So again, I am the child of a librarian. My mom's second job growing up was actually at our county library. So I also got kind of my start here in Washington County when we first moved by serving on the Stillwater Public Library Board. Our libraries serve such an important function for our communities. Not only is it a place to learn about anything in the world that you want to learn about, but the librarians that are there are this amazing connector to all the services that our community has. Not everyone that goes to the library has a bed to sleep in at night. Not everyone that goes to the library has the support of a family to help them through a mental health crisis. But our libraries are places where people can get more information, they can learn more, and they really can be connected to the services that they need. So in my opinion, we need more funding for our libraries. There is some improvements happening in the libraries within Washington County in the next year that has been funded. Creative thinking and maybe foundation support throughout the many generous foundations that are here within our county could be of benefit as well. But I am all for supporting our libraries. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
Libraries are, I think, an essential part of our democracy. It is one of those focal points that we come together, we learn, we communicate, we share ideas. One of my favorite occurrences at the Lake Elmo Public Library is meeting author Carolyn Porter, who developed and wrote a book called Marcel's Letters, with a fantastic kind of a mystery story from World War II to her looking for a new typeset in her business. And if you've got a chance, pick up the book and read it. But the opportunity for us to again support and keep our libraries, I think, relevant and electronic and being digitalized, so that more folks can do not just maybe in person but also from home, is something I think is good for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, next question. How would you use community development and other county resources for affordable housing?
One of the, I think, the big issues or the big steps that we made this past year was the emergency housing piece, and that to my understanding is where we've got citizens and residents of Washington County that are in straits where they need assistance, and part of that has to do with what our local law enforcement and our sheriff's department were finding at some of the parks, and that we have, I think, a role and responsibility to facilitate helping people get back up on their feet. But this is a community lift, and I think one of the things that the county can do is provide the framework and the structure for this, and then assembling the community lift piece, which is the nonprofits, it's private organizations, it's other government organizations, to ensure that we're providing for the needs and that the community is coming together. I think having empathy for folks is very important. In fact, in a related piece yesterday, I was at Open Cupboard in Oakdale, and they celebrated using DoorDash for delivery of meals in our community. Valley Outreach here in Stillwater does a good job of providing meals so that we address the food insecurity issues, so that they can so that folks that are receiving this can make decisions and not worry about having to where the next meal will come from. Thank you.
Thank you. Bethany?
Margaret, would you read the question
Yes.
again, please?
Uh-huh. How would you use community development and other county resources for affordable housing?
So this is a complex issue. Listening to some podcasts and talking to some leaders in this area, this problem didn't start 10 years ago. This started, many, many years ago. And so there's some really creative ways that this problem can find a solution. And talking to some friends in the unions, in labor, and all of my friends at Zavago, good morning, hello. That facility, that co-op for our seniors here in Stillwater, was built and financed through the labor pension. These are things I had no idea existed, but this is a way for the union employees to allow their pensions to grow, to create more jobs and opportunities for their fellow union members, and to create housing that our seniors and that our communities so desperately need. So does the solution always have to come from county money? Absolutely not. I think there are some really interesting and really creative ways to come about this. So yes, community development and maybe, as Mark shared, the framework can come from the county, but then again, it's based on those relationships that we have throughout our communities as to how we can get creative, how we can possibly look at zoning changes that we might need to get in higher density housing in places where our seniors and our community needs it. Thank you.
Next question, Bethany. What changes, if any, need to be made to improve the delivery of human services in Washington County?
So human services is a very big lift. There's a lot of resources that umbrella fits. And I think that the county is making some improvements with the new facility near the end of the Gold Line in Woodbury for more of those resources to be shared. I think expecting everyone that needs some of those resources to come to the government center in Stillwater is just not possible and is not going to be a workable solution. So creating these kind of satellite offices for these services to be delivered at, I think, is just brilliant. I would love to know too, is there a way we could possibly partner with all of the libraries? Could they hold and host some of this information? Perhaps a social worker one day a month could actually be in those libraries where families are meeting and who have those needs. I have a lot more to learn about the Human Services Department in our county and exactly what they do, but the lift is big, the budget is high, and the need is there.
Mark?
Thanks. I think we agree on much of this. In the sense, I think one of the biggest issues is the mental health issue that we're seeing across our society and in the human services side. And I'll also mention the crisis intervention team that the Sheriff's Department has developed and expanded, which is key to alleviate our sworn officers from doing behavioral mental health pieces, where we can get the right services to our citizens that are struggling with a mental health issue. The delivery piece, I think you're onto something, Bethany, as far as how do we take the model that the Central Services Center in Woodbury was established, and are there other locations where we can go and use facilities and build out? Maybe in collaboration with the state or with our cities or townships in other ways, so that it's distributed and where people live, it's on a bus route. Those things, I think, as we take a look on the impact piece and in planning and hear from our partners in the nonprofits as well as in the communities, I think we can come up with a plan that doesn't break the budget, but gets the services out to where people need them.
Thank you, Mark. How should the county board address state and federal mandates that come with unstable or inadequate funding?
I think this goes to relationships. I want to say we. I should say it's probably the big we. There are many mandates and dictates that come out of the state, and they maybe are only funded for a year or 2 years or a short time, and there's an expectation that then the recipient, the county, will pick it up through property taxes or whatever. I think in our relationship with our state government officials, I think it's key for us to go back to them, especially for something that is a huge lift, that there needs to be more of a state participation in a longer term in order to ramp up and get to the level of support which the state identified in their vision that they want to see. And I think that's the collaboration effort, that's the shared vision effort, that we're not in this alone, that the state owns part of this, and we own part of it. So I think it's a collaboration, it's a relationship, it's a conversation with our state partners to make certain that this can actually work the way it was designed.
Thank you. Bethany.
So mandates are a part of county government, and knocking on doors, the first question is, what does a county commissioner actually do? And the way that I explain a mandate is the state and the federal government say, here are the services that we want for our people. Now you at the county, we want you to actually do the work. And so 80% of Washington County's budget are those mandated services, and so in order to make sure that the expense of those services is not passed along to our residents and to our constituents through an increase in property taxes, it is making sure that those people that are mandating those services, the state government, the federal government, that they understand that there's a strong need for the county, especially here in Washington County, to make sure that the funds are following through to match the services that are being asked for. Relationships, ensuring that those representatives are following through on the mandate that they've put in place, ensuring the ability then for Washington County commissioners to not have to pass on that bill to our constituents is very important.
Thank you. Bethany, next question.
Yeah.
What skills will be necessary for advocating for District 3 residents when you are 1/5 of the county board? Is compromise the only solution?
So what I love about Washington County is that they look so far into the future. There's a plan for roads. There's a plan for growth. There's a plan for, again, the next 20 and 30 years. So what we need to do is when those plans are coming out as commissioners and as residents, we need to take a look at those plans and make sure that the needs that we are seeing for our district are in there and are balanced with the needs of the other district. If someone were to come into this role and just demand action for District 3, I think you'd be kicking yourself in 4 years, because it is a cooperative and it is a collective effort to make sure that all residents of Washington County are being able to live their best life. So I do feel that compromise, conversation, lots of things are needed to make sure that all the residents of the entire county are cared for.
Thank you. Mark.
I understand the question is about compromise as the only way.
Right.
Maybe I'll have you read it just one more time.
Okay, sure. What skills will be necessary for advocating for District 3 residents when you are 1/5 of the county board? Is compromise the only solution?
I don't think compromise is the only solution. I think it is collaboration, it's working through, it's listening, it's engaging. My experience has been at the state legislature. I was ranked as one of the top legislators that was the most bipartisan by the Watchdog Group, Majority in the Middle. And that's because in order to get things done, you need to create coalitions. You need to have different parties represented and inclusive to their concerns. And what do you know? Sometimes you get things done. And in our bonding bills, I've been very pleased with what we were able to secure here for the East Metro. And in my Judiciary Committee, I got to work with a very talented person, Representative Sandra Feist, on Veterans Restorative Justice Act. I'm a veteran. That's very important to me. She wanted to take a legal process that was sort of new in concept, and I had to work with her and also with my caucus to make certain that they didn't, they voted for it. And it passed, and I was able to really understand more. So this is that whole thing about listening to people, understanding, and then seeing that there may be another way forward not originally thought by you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Ann, we're going to have to take the question to a 1.5-minute response limit. Mark, is there any topic or topics not addressed during this forum that you want voters to be aware of how you stand?
I think I've got one of this is my kind of my big idea thing. I think we need to have a veteran summit, and what that is, as I go to at the Washington County Fair, at the Field of Bands, door knocking, at neighborhood picnics, and I run into veterans, and we still have an unsustainable rate of veterans committing suicide. Nationally, it's 22 a day. Here in the state, it's 100 a year. That's way too many. There's a lot of well-intentioned groups out there, and this is where I think this is a community lift thing. That the structure provided by the County Veteran Service Officer, we bring in our nonprofits, we bring in veterans, we bring in the state VA, the federal VA, and talk about how we can get after this mental health, substance abuse issue in our county. There are resources out there. It is getting the people to the resources or the resources to the people, and there's no bad idea. There's a lot of good stuff. Hometown Heroes here in Stillwater does a great job. There's a number of other groups out there that want to do, and they could do more. We just need to be able to talk and get together and collaborate, not necessarily compromise, but maybe compromise, and get things done with a shared vision. Thank you.
Thank you. Bethany?
So we talked about a lot: housing, transportation, human services. The one thing I didn't touch on was safety. Living in Washington County is an incredibly safe place to live, and I'm very proud of that. And I know that the families in my neighborhood and on the doors that I'm knocking, they are very happy and proud of that as well. So a huge thank you to our Sheriff's Department for all of their hard work, and then those coordinated responses that are happening with social workers as well. The other thing that we didn't touch on, or I didn't touch on, was the organizational excellence strategic goal that the county has put in place. Washington County is the #1 employer in our county. We have the opportunity then, as that #1 employer, to lead the way in employee care, essentially. Are the salaries appropriate? Are we paying people what they need to be paid? Are the benefits commensurate with the work that's being done as well? Are we making sure that the efficiencies and the technology that all of the employees have is of the quality that they can effectively and efficiently do their work? So setting that bar and being the leader in our community for organizational excellence is something I was actually really excited to see within the county's strategic plan, and I look forward to helping drive that forward.
Okay, both of you, congratulations on using the time wisely. I'll begin the 1.5-minute closing statements with Mark.
Thank you, Margot. Thank you, Stillwater Gazette and Valley Access, for another excellent forum. I'm excited to lead a path of sustainable change and solid accountability at Washington County. My wife, Tina, a mental health therapist in private practice, and I have made Stillwater and Lake Elmo our home for decades, and we're raising daughters here, attending Stillwater High School. They're active in sports, honor society, our church, our community, and both received their academic letters at St. Paul and Stillwater Area High School this week. A proud moment for all of us. Washington County citizens, please consider voting for me to represent you over the next 4 years as we implement a new strategic plan that will shape our future. If you want clean water, safe transportation, government accountability to all people, that's me. I will work with communities to assist them in the type of development that they desire. I will ensure our county attorney and sheriff are well-funded to keep us safe. I support our county workforce, ensuring living wages and good benefits. I look forward to finding opportunities for our local businesses to thrive. Transparency will be my watchword for government accountability to our citizens, from process to services, from respect to action, all with results that serve our folks. If it's going to last, it must have broad public support. Please consider voting Mark Wiens November 5th for a clean, stable, safe, friendly, affordable future in Washington County where all can come together and thrive. Mark Wiens for washco.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Bethany.
Yes, thank you, Margaret, for your time today leading our discussion, and to the Stillwater Gazette for again hosting today's forum. I want to share my gratitude again to the voters who propelled me to a strong first-place finish in the primary election. And thank you to the supporters and the many volunteers who are helping me achieve this same first-place finish in the upcoming November election. While knocking on doors and meeting with our community leaders, I'm hearing their excitement for a new approach from a younger generation. This is not the county it was 20 years ago when our current commissioner started the job. Just think about how much one community has changed, Lake Elmo. In 2004, Lake Elmo was home to 7,500 residents. Today, okay, so these numbers are from 2022, not today, but there's now 13,500 people calling Lake Elmo home. The population has almost doubled in these 20 years. We cannot be solving the problems of our community like we did 20 years ago, and I'm excited to be that new voice. Nonpartisan county government here in District 3 needs new people, needs new voices to represent how our county looks today. I look forward to being the new collaborative voice for Washington County District 3. I ask you today to vote Bethany Cox in the general election on November 5th, or as early as Monday, as early voting is now open in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Bethany. Thank you, Valley Access Channels. Taylor Kyle, the managing editor of the Stillwater Gazette, will be doing a write-up of this forum, which will appear hard copy and online. Viewers, as you know, I do these impartial forums for decades for you. So thank you for your interest and ongoing, very public support and of me and our candidate forum sponsor, Stillwater Gazette.